Okay, I'm gonna let people in.
Okay, cool.
There's gonna be a guy here today.
Ooh, lovely.
Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi. Okay.
I think this is the first Zoom I've been on in a really long time where everybody's coming on with their cameras on. I'm like, yes.
Yes. So cool. Jason, you are our honorary male here.
What's going on right now? This is weird.
Well, it's a female platform, but you're one of the few men, so
Yeah.
I love it.
I will not be sharing this photo on Instagram with my wife. She will not be happy about this. Cool.
Okay, hold on. Letting people in.
When you said a female platform, isn't it open to everybody? I guess
It is, but
Yeah.
I honestly, I just love networking with women.
Okay.
It is open to everybody. I have like a couple guys on there, and obviously yourself included. But yeah, mostly women. Which is not a problem. Everyone's welcome. And you have an amazing app. So I want everybody to hear about it anyways.
Awesome.
So thank you guys for coming. I'm going to let people in as they come up, but I wanted to welcome Brianne. I am recording this, so I know she's going to have so much valuable information. And if you guys have to leave early, I'm going to email it so you guys will get all the good stuff. So with that being said, let me allow you screen sharing capabilities and all right, you should be ready to go.
Lovely. Okay.
It's a story.
Thank you for having me here, Imbal. I appreciate it. I'm super excited. I think that today is going to be, first of all, awesome, but second of all, it's fallen on a really interesting day because today I'm actually feeling a lot of imposter syndrome because of like something else that's going on in my life. And so earlier today, I was starting to get that gut feeling, like a little teary-eyed, being like, man, I don't feel good. Also, I hope you guys like dogs because my guy's gonna probably join us. Oh, he's just laying back there now. He'll jump around occasionally. Anyway, so I was involved. Do you mind? Thank you. Thank you. So I was really having a lot of those imposter syndrome feelings, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna really dig in and A, figure out why I'm feeling these feelings. B, I'm gonna channel it to bring my best into this mastermind because I know from experience of like working through imposter syndrome for so long that it's if I let it overtake me, it can really overtake me. And it, honestly, sometimes I sit in that for like a couple days. But if I can like catch it while it's starting to happen and then get over it by using the tools that I have to like understand it, then I feel really good. So I'm going to share my screen, but I just wanted to start with that by like prefacing that imposter syndrome isn't something that goes away ever. You can learn to work with it. You can learn to overcome it when it happens, but it's not something that once you work through it, it's gone and it's never going to come back. That's just not the reality. And that's everybody's reality. So even though I'm here speaking about imposter syndrome, that doesn't mean that like I had it one time and then I overcame it. And now I'm like, here, let me give you the magical tools that you'll never experience it again. Just not the reality of things. And that every single day in different ways, we might feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it's how we let it control our lives. So I'm gonna use your typical Zoom lingo, say, give me a second to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen now that I'm sharing it? Yes, thumbs up. Cool, thank you. Okay, so ignore these little things on the side, but today, like I said, I'm gonna be talking about imposter syndrome, building confidence. I wanna start off by saying that, first of all, my name is Brianne. I am the co-founder of Cheer District. I'm the founder of Consulting by D. I'm the host of Becoming Entrepreneur. I'm a mental health advocate, and I am proud of myself and all that I've accomplished in the last 6 years of entrepreneurship. And I'm coming here and I'm saying that with pride because there is a part of me that years ago or earlier today when I was feeling imposter syndrome that I might have come on this call and been a little sheepish and said, you know, my name's Brianne. I'm the founder of Consulting by B, and I'm not really confident about it. But I told myself, you know what, I am going to ignore those feelings, because at the end of the day, we're going to get into like what is imposter syndrome. But what I like to look at it is the facts versus your feelings. So the reality behind why I'm here today is because I have proven that I can take adversity, kick it away, and show up in the best version of myself. And who I am is something that I should be proud of, something that I can't let imposter syndrome take away from me. So that is who I am. My name is Brianne. Please stop me at any point during this if you want to share an experience of your own, if you want to contribute something. I really want this to be open to, you know, your typical like mastermind. We all have incredible minds here. We're all probably running businesses or have our own, we're influencers. So you're really running a business there too. So if you have something to contribute, please feel free to like come off mute and share. So today, the couple of things that I'm going to dive into are, first of all, what is imposter syndrome? Because I'm terribly sorry if you've sat through these last 5 minutes and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I definitely will give you a little bit more insight there so that you can get in, you know, on the ground level with us. We're going to talk about what causes imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about how to recognize imposter syndrome within yourself, because that's kind of taking it one step further in order for you to overcome it. We're going to talk about tips about building confidence. I'll talk to you a little bit about how imposter syndrome and confidence building are often put together, but they're not the same thing. So we'll go over that a little bit. We're going to talk about showing up as yourself unapologetically. And then we're going to talk about some organizational tools, which seems like a random thing to throw in. But as business owners, the reason I wanted to throw it in here is because personally, I find that when my life is disorganized, imposter syndrome tends to take over more often because I can't control, if I can't control what's going on in my life, I'm definitely not able to control my feelings. So although I have this presentation up here, I'm not really going to, I don't have a bunch of slides. I prefer to just talk. And so if you guys have questions, follow-up questions, and you want like more resources or information, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to share that. I just thought it would be best if I could kind of just like show up as me today and we could just chat. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so that we can see more of the face, less of the screen. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, like I said, is what is imposter syndrome. So if you're sitting here going like, Brianne, can you please explain more, because I'm really lost right now. Imposter syndrome is that feeling of being a fraud, of thinking that someone's going to catch you in a situation or an instance where you shouldn't be there, where you're pretending to be somebody that you're not. That whole, you know, fake it till you make it phase saying is not something that I disagree with, because I think we definitely have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, which is something we're going to talk about. But if you really feel in your stomach that you're faking it, that's imposter syndrome. That's like you saying, I'm not good enough to be here. I'm not strong enough. I'm not worthy. All of the like opposing affirmation sayings that you could say about yourself. That's what imposter syndrome is. And it can happen in big scale and in small scale. And so I'll give you a little bit of insight into some experiences of my own so that maybe that will help you relate to find and look back and reflect on instances where you might have experienced imposter syndrome, so that you can start to kind of see, okay, where is this showing up in my life and how can I start to grab it before it becomes a problem and like derails your day or your success in a certain project or whatever that may be. I really want to make sure that at the end of this, you guys feel like you've left with some tools in how you can show up as like a more confident, better version of yourself. So now that we know what imposter syndrome is, we can look at what causes imposter syndrome. And in my opinion, it is our inner child. It is experiences that we've had from literally the day that we were born up until an hour ago. It is anything that has shaped you into who you are and experiencing something in life that makes you feel that you are not worthy. So in a couple, I've experienced imposter syndrome. Like I said, I have imposter syndrome today. I was experiencing it, but I've experienced it in many different forms. I've experienced it in my business life where I have shown up in one example being I was raising money for my business in 2018, and I showed up to a bank meeting where we had a bunch of investors there. And for those of you that don't know, one of the businesses that I said that I'm the co-founder of is Cheer District. It is a app for cheerleaders based on training the athletes appropriately. We do research on the sport so that we can teach athletes how to train their bodies so that they can reduce the risk of injury and increase their performance. So you can only imagine, and I apologize to the male on the call, but you can only imagine that walking into a room full of middle-aged men bankers looking at me, 21-year-old me, coming to ask for money for a cheerleading business, that they're like, haha, okay, sure, let's see how this goes. And I'm also Canadian. I'm from Ontario, Canada. And so cheerleading in Canada is way smaller than it is in the US. Like in Canada, we have like 50,000 cheerleaders. In the US, you guys have like 5 million cheerleaders. So, I mean, obviously our population is a lot smaller, but regardless, it's not as big of a thing in Canada. So even taking it that one step further of like, not only did I have to prove the worth of my business, but I also had to kind of prove the validity of my sport as well. And literally in the first 5 minutes of walking into the room, we were kind of networking and talking to people. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. We have a bunch of family businesses. We all kind of help each other out. My dad's been in investment banking for 30 years, so he kind of helped me arrange this meeting of getting people together. So he was there with me. My brother was doing research for my business at the time, so he was also there. Just to kind of paint the picture a little. So the three of us were standing around talking to this gentleman who walked over to us, and he reaches out, shakes the hand of my brother, shakes the hand of my dad, and like I'm in between them and just jumps over me entirely, like completely ignores that I'm there. And I was like, okay. So I collected myself, stood in my confidence, reached out and was like, hi, I'm Brianne, nice to meet you. Kind of looked at me like, you're who? And why do I care? He obviously did no research into who was doing the pitch that day, because it would be me in the next 5 minutes standing up in front of the room looking for an investor, and he was there supposedly as an investor. So I was like, okay, it's okay. I started to get that imposter syndrome feeling of like, why am I here? I'm not good enough. Should I leave? Like, am I just going to embarrass myself? And those feelings started to bubble up, and I was like, no, Brianne, it's just one guy. Stand in your confidence, you can do this. So we keep talking to him, and then we're kind of like wrapping up to maybe start the pitch, and he takes out his business cards, hands one to my dad, one to my brother, and walks away. And I was like, okay, so we're doing this. Yep, this is real. This is happening to me right now. Like I heard, I'd experienced some of the things of being a female in tech. I'd been taken advantage of. Inbal knows all about it. Being a female in tech is not easy, let alone raising money as a female at 21 in tech with a room full of men. And I was like straight up ignored. And I wanted to throw up and cry and run away. And 3 years prior to that, I would have, because I was not a version of myself 3 years prior that I wanted to be. Had no confidence. I would never enter a room without walking in with somebody, because I was like, I couldn't imagine being the center of attention of walking and people looking at me like, why is she here? Psst, psst, psst. You know what I mean? Like those feelings of just not wanting to be somebody that everybody looked at, because they were only looking at you because something was wrong with you. You weren't good enough. And those were the feelings that I always had. And I worked so hard when I started my business to become somebody that could walk into a room with confidence, that could walk into a room, hold my head high and say like, hell yeah, I'm here. I'm going to ask for your money. You're going to friggin' give it to me. And I'm going to be like the strongest person in the room. And then that happens. And I was like, well, you're really throwing a curveball at me here, sir. So I collected myself. And instead of letting that imposter syndrome feeling make me throw up and cry, I strut up to the front of the room and I was like, no, I'm going to do the best pitch I've ever given. And I'm going to stand in my confidence no matter what happens. And it really, truly was the best pitch I've ever given. And it was because I learned how to use that fuel of imposter syndrome as fuel, not as, oh, thanks, Sally, not as something that can tear me down. So at the end of the meeting, that older gentleman did obviously recognize what he did, and in not so many words came up and apologized, gave me his business card. No, he did not end up investing in my company. Not sure if honestly I would have even continued the conversation should he had reached out, because that wasn't the kind of person that I wanted, on my team per se. But I did make some really, really cool connections that day, and that helped me build my company, that helped me get into other pitch opportunities. And it was because I used that fuel of feeling belittled and feeling like I wasn't good enough, and letting my inner child of being bullied as a kid allow me to feel like, great, here I am standing again in front of a room full of people who are just here to make fun of me. And so that's an example of, it feels like it's an extreme example. That's an extreme example of imposter syndrome that I took as fuel. But there's also the totally other side of the spectrum, which is kind of funny. And I was actually talking to my friend about it the other day. And I was like, honestly, I feel imposter syndrome sometimes when my fiance asks me to do the dishes. I know, so random, right? Like, people are like, what do you mean? And it's because there's this weird gut feeling that I get, like, I'm not a good enough partner. I'm not a good enough housekeeper. I'm not contributing to the piece of the relationship that I'm supposed to be contributing to. And it gets these weird feelings, and it's because of my past and the things that have happened in my life that have shaped me into who I am, and being a super self-conscious person, that although I've done the work, although I show up every day in trying to be my best self, it doesn't matter. It still can show up in something as small as my partner asking me to do the dishes. And so that's what I think is so important here, and why I share those two such extreme examples, is that imposter syndrome can literally show up at any point in your day, in your life, whatever you're going through. But it doesn't mean that you can't overcome it. It doesn't mean that you can't tell that man who ignores you that, like, screw you. Pardon my language, Jimbo. I don't know what the rules are here. Like, screw you. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to show up as my best self, and I don't need you. And it can show up as, hey, Brianne, can you do the dishes? And me being like, you know what? I can do the dishes. And it has nothing to do with me being a partner. It has everything to do with you just not wanting to do the dishes today, or you vacuumed today, so I get to do the dishes, or whatever it is. It's nothing bigger than just doing the damn dishes. It has nothing to do with me and my value as a partner. But I can catch those feelings and revert and find the facts before I let it get to me, and before I let it make my day go down like this super steep slope of, whoa, I'm not good enough. And try being a business owner of multiple businesses and not thinking you're good enough is probably one of the hardest things to do. So, like, learning how to harness that feeling of imposter syndrome, flip it on its head, and use it as fuel to be your best self is such a cool tool. So one of the things that we can talk about next is how to recognize imposter syndrome within yourself. So I like to describe it, although I know everybody feels it in a different way, but I feel it as that, like, almost butterfly feeling, but not good butterfly feeling. That feeling of, like, I'm gonna puke, I don't feel good, why do I feel this way? That feeling of, like, I know we've all been there when you're crying, you're like, I don't know why I'm crying, I'm just crying, because you're, like, having an emotional moment for a minute. Happens to me, like, far more than I'd like to admit, but it's that feeling of catching it, like, right as soon as it happens, and being like, oh, okay, that's a weird feeling. And then looking around at your surrounding, looking at and analyzing kind of, okay, what's happened? What are people saying to me? Why maybe do I feel that way? What's something in my past that has made me feel that way? And I'm not saying it's always going to be clear, because it's definitely not. And it took me a really long time to come to the conclusion of even the thing for the dishes. Like, I was like, why do I always get so pissed? And it actually took me some therapy and working through that with my therapist, and her saying, like, you seem to get triggered when you're accused of something. And that comes from feeling like I was accused of things when I was a kid, of, like, not being a good friend, or, like, not being pretty enough, or whatever it was. Like, I feel, and I get my backup, and I feel imposter syndrome when I'm accused of, or when I perceive, when the story I tell myself, something that I read recently, which was, like, blew my mind. It's like the reality versus the story you tell yourself. So what's the story versus the story you tell yourself? And so the story that I was constantly telling myself was that I wasn't good enough. And I've learned that when I start to feel those feelings, I can kind of be like, okay, what's going on that's making me feel those feelings? What are the things that made me feel those feelings? And what are the facts that prove that those feelings are invalid? And I am the biggest proponent of your feelings are valid, because I think that's one of the best ways to get through your feelings, is kind of being like, it's okay that I feel like shit right now. It's okay that I want to cry. I'm just going to cry because that's a valid feeling. But it's understanding that that's not, just because you have a feeling doesn't mean that's who you are. And it's being able to separate those two things of, I might feel like I'm not worthy right now, but it doesn't mean that I am not worthy. So it's learning to have that feeling and say, it's okay that I want to cry right now because that's my feelings, but I am worthy of X, whatever is not happening in your life that you want to happen, or whoever is wronging you in that moment and making you feel like you're not good enough. Or maybe it's just yourself, kind of those thoughts, putting it on yourself. And when you look at, and I learned this a lot through therapy, which, by the way, I'm like, I said in the beginning, mental health advocate, I am like super pro therapy, because I think we can find out so much about ourselves. And the more we can learn about ourselves, more like internal work that we can do, the better we can show up for other people, and for ourselves in general, for our businesses, really anyway, show up in the world if we know ourselves better. And one of the things I learned a lot about in like clinical psychology is and through CBT, it's like your thoughts become your feelings, become your actions. And so how early can you catch it in the chain? And so I really like to relate that to imposter syndrome, is like, imposter syndrome is like that first thought. It hasn't quite become the feeling, and it definitely hasn't become the action, but the longer it takes for you to catch it, the closer you're going to get to the action of sitting on the couch eating Ben and Jerry's like by the tub, because let me tell you, I've been there. So if we can catch it at the thought of, I have a thought of, I'm not good enough, before that feeling comes, before I don't show up and say, yes, Imbal, I would love to do this imposter syndrome presentation because I'm freaking so passionate about it. And I said no because I thought that what makes me the right person for this. So literally breaking down, and when you're starting to do it, writing things down is really helpful. For me, at least it was like, I could sit down and be like, okay, I act and work backwards. I acted a certain way today. Why did I act that way? Okay, what were the feelings that I felt when I acted that way? Like, I sat on the couch and ate Ben and Jerry's. Okay, what was the feelings that I had that made me do that? Well, I felt like I wasn't worthy because I wanted to cry, and I felt like I wasn't worthy to show up and do this mastermind. And my thoughts were that I wasn't good enough because of my bullies in the past that told me I wasn't. So like working through that, and you'll start to see trends. And so like me, although it took me a little bit longer to work it through with my therapist, like I started to feel the trend of when I was accused of something, it like sent me on a spiral. So how can you work through those, find your trends to figure out where does imposter syndrome show up in your life, and how can you catch it in your thought and then change the thought? Think of an affirmation that's the opposite of that thought. I am not good enough. I am good enough. I am good enough. I am good enough. I am good enough. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be my best self. And if I fall on my face, I'm going to learn from it. And next time I'm going to show up even better. Because at the end of the day, failure is a learning opportunity. It's part of the journey. And we're all going to fail. We're all going to have like shitty experiences in our lives that are going to shape us into who we are, but it's how we take that failure. It's how we take that feeling of imposter syndrome and turn it into a positive. So quick 3 tips for building your confidence. Like I said before, I was going to tie how imposter syndrome and confidence aren't the same thing. Like obviously they're opposites. Imposter syndrome is like what you're feeling, and how your feelings aren't necessarily the facts. It's making you feel like you're an imposter, like you're a fraud. And confidence is obviously the opposite of that, but there's a lot of work in between that. And I think that we live in this shiny society where it's like, oh, just flip it. Tell yourself an affirmation and you'll feel it. Like, beep, beep, bullshit. Sorry, Imbal again. It's not the case. Like, you're not just going to overnight all of a sudden be a confident person. I can confidently say now I'm a different person than I was 6 years ago, but that's because for 6 years I've been doing the work. And it took me 6 years to show up the way that I'm showing up today. Last year would have been different. The year before would have been even more different. 6 years ago, I would have had a paper bag on my head and said, like, absolutely no, Imbal, I'm not doing this. I definitely wouldn't have had my camera on, that's for sure. So it's putting in the work every single day, catching those little things like being asked to do the dishes to work up to the point where you can get to those big things and you can be like, no, I'm going to show up as my best self. So 3 tips for doing that. The first one is step out of your comfort zone every single day. It can be something really, really small. The first thing that I ever did to step out of my comfort zone was compliment strangers on the street. It sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth, because I literally did not have the confidence to speak to a stranger. So I told my mom one day, because I had started this business, I was like, I have to go in and I'm a salesperson, marketing person, business owner. I'm all of the things now. I'm an entrepreneur. We wear all of the hats. How the hell am I going to walk in and try to sell my business to somebody if I can't even tell somebody I like their jacket? So I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, my goal is to tell everybody that I pass on the street, if I like their clothing, I'm going to tell them. She was like, okay, Brianne, you do that. And I'm not kidding. It changed everything because I finally became comfortable with talking to strangers. I started talking to my barista. I was like, hey, how's your day going? People don't think that that's a big deal, but for me, it really was. So stepping out of my comfort zone every single day. Today, stepping out of my comfort zone looks a whole lot different than stepping out of my comfort zone 6 years ago did. And 6 years ago, Brianne would have been like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like freaking out at all the things that I'm doing now that are stepping out of my comfort zone. So push yourself out of your comfort zone as much as you can. The second thing for building your confidence is learning about your inner child. And this is something that I've like more recently come to know and learn about. And I think it's so mind blowing. There's a book that I'm reading that's really, really good. It's like I'm going back to this every day and reading the chapter over again. But it's called How to Do the Work. And it's a really cool combination of psychology, but also more of the like spiritual connecting mind and body and understanding that. And she talks a lot about your inner child. So it's called How to Do the Work. And understanding your inner child, understanding and really thinking about why you are the way that you are and what things in your past shaped you, and working through those things so that you can more easily recognize that and step into your confidence knowing, okay, this is just like one thing in my past that made me feel this way, but it's not actually who I am. So you can start working towards changing those thought patterns, because we can change our thought patterns. Like our brains are super advanced. We're like these crazy creatures on this planet who can do literally anything that we want to. We just have to talk ourselves through it. We have to get there. And so understanding why you are the way that you are through understanding your inner child, I found has been very helpful in helping me really dig into how I can become more confident, how I can show up in myself in confidence. And it's even my fiance is reading it now and he's like loving it. So it's not like a super girly book. It's, you know, we got a 27-year-old man reading it and he's excited about it. So like that says something. It's a good read. And then the last one about tip about building your confidence is leaning into your feelings, not running away from them. So like when you're starting to feel like you're having a shitty day, like lean into that feeling. Why am I feeling this way? What is telling me to feel this way and how can I change it? And we have this tendency of like pushing things down, blocking it away, and that's a form of strength. I disagree. I think letting yourself cry, I think understanding why am I crying? Why do I feel this way? Why has this interaction made me feel put me in such a tizzy? I know that's like the most old lady word to say, but that's what came to my brain, so I'm going to say it. Why is it making me feel this way? And lean into it so that you can flip it on its head and make the choice to change the way that you're feeling. And at first it's going to feel super weird because you're going to be like, I can't just choose to feel a different way. But eventually you're going to build that skill where really you can choose to feel a different way, because you can recognize why you're feeling a certain way and you can remind yourself that that's a feeling, that's not a fact. Now I know, Emma, I'm sorry, we're getting close to half an hour, so like I can totally stop if you want me to, but I want to talk a little bit about showing up as yourself unapologetically. And this is something that maybe some of you would relate to, and I would love to hear if you do relate to it. Is that when I was a kid, I was really horribly bullied. I was made fun of a lot because I'm a ginger. I have red hair and freckles. And in where I grew up, that was like the most embarrassing thing, like the way that you looked. And it's crazy because obviously it's not something I have control of. It's my genetics, it's how I was born. It's not something that I can change. And so for so long, probably starting, I remember crying in the Shoppers Drug Mart parking lot with my mom when I was like 11, saying, "Mom, you have to let me wear makeup because I need to be able to cover up my freckles to a certain degree. You need to be able to let me, like, have to be able to make myself look prettier because everybody thinks I'm ugly. Like, why can't I wear makeup? Mom, please let me wear makeup." And it was last year, I think, yes, last year, probably in like February, was the first time I ever showed up on Instagram without makeup on. And I literally made a choice that day, and I was like, I am not doing this every day anymore. I'm not putting makeup on every morning to cover up the way that I look. I am not feeling like I have to, show up as this beautiful, whatever version that I thought other people needed me to show up as. And ever since then, like literally 2 weeks ago, I got my lashes back on because I like them for me, but for the longest time, I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for how I thought I had to show up. And it's so empowering showing up as yourself. And since then, like literally in the last year, probably honestly, mostly in the last 6 months, because I was struggling with a little bit of depression the first 6 months of the last year. But truly in the last 6 months, I've like leaned into being me and showing up as like the true me. And I've had, those friends in your life that like know you and like know the real you because you allow yourself to be the real you in front of them. And I have like a small group of those people in my life. And a couple of them have reached out to me and been like, "This is the Brianne we know and love." And it's like changed me in like making me feel confident in me and like who I am and who I can be and who I can show up as, because I have something to offer. Like, I am proud of me. I'm proud of the person that I'm becoming. I'm proud of the person that I can show up in this room and like share with you guys that I am proud of that. And earlier, Brianne wouldn't have been able to do that, let alone like truly believe that I have something to contribute to this world. And by having, sure, it took the affirmation of some of my friends to be like, "This is the bee we know." And even I had a friend who I met her in the middle of the pandemic when I was like really struggling with some depression. And she sent me like this huge paragraph of like saying, "I loved you before, but I didn't know this version of you existed. And I friggin' love this version of you." And I'm like, you know what? I friggin' love this version of me too. And so I've learned that showing up as unapologetically me is not only serving me because it's so easy to show up as me every day. Like, why the hell am I trying to be somebody that I'm not? It's not serving me. It's not serving anybody. But also other people are feeling that from me. And that's filling up my cup even more because I get to show up as me every single day. Now, last thing, because I know I'm going long, so sorry, is a weird pivot. And you're probably gonna be like, "Brianne, this makes no sense to include this," but it's organizational tools. And I'm just gonna throw a couple at you because I strongly believe, like I said at the beginning, if you can't show up as your best self in like an organizational way, then like there's no way you're going to be able to show up for yourself emotionally. Because when like shit hits the fan in my world, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and there's no way I'm going to take the time to be like, "What am I feeling right now, Brianne?" Not a chance. So a couple of tools that I use personally to keep my life on track so that I can be in tune with my feelings so that I can show up as my best self. First one is a project management tool called Monday.com. I am obsessed with it. It's super customizable. there. I use it with my clients. I use it just for my own project management. I use it with my VA to manage his tasks and what he does for me, which brings me to my second one is I have a VA, which is I actually just onboarded him last week. And it's literally, I'm not getting the best thing I ever did because I felt like I was drowning. And now I have somebody that is passionate about what he's doing for me, and he's excited and he's wonderful. And I can be like, hey, can you do this? And he does it for me. And I'm like, oh my God, look at that. I didn't have to do it. So it makes my life a whole lot easier. The third one is if you use, I mean, I'm pretty sure every email service does this, but I personally use Gmail, is using your labels. And what my VA does now for me, this is like quick tip if you have a VA, or you can even do it for yourself, is like I've created labels urgent, today, and when you have time. So every morning he goes into my email now and labels my emails so that I can then go and be like, okay, I only have 15 minutes for my emails right now. I'm only going to do the urgent ones, and I get those done. And then when I have a little bit more flexibility, I go do the today ones. And then the when you have time ones, I'm like, when I have time, I don't have time for that today, so I'm not going to worry about it. And just something as simple as not having to worry about feeding through the crap that comes in your inbox every day to figure out what you actually need to worry about or what's going to get missed has been super, super helpful. And then the last one is Honeybook for client management. It's been a game changer for me to include everything all in one spot. So like I do my client booking in there, I do contracts, they have these really cool custom forms. So I do like my even audits of like Instagram pages and their businesses, and we can share files, and it keeps everything, all the communication in one spot. Payments go through there. It's really, really awesome, and I'm loving it. So that's really helped me keep my head screwed on straight, because before I had a couple different places where like I did my billing over here, I did my contracts over here. And so you're always like trying to keep yourself organized. And again, if we're not organized, we can't be back in the soul and really figure out where we're meant to be and who we're meant to be and how we can show up as our best selves. So I have a link that I'll share in the chat of like some of the resources, freebies, like how to contact me if you want to. I'm super open to chatting, but Inbal, I'm gonna let you kind of take it from here, but I would love, maybe, I know if we're all going around and kind of introducing ourselves and like talking about what we do, I would love to know like an experience maybe where you've experienced imposter syndrome and how maybe you either overcame it or maybe how you didn't, and now looking back, you know what it was. So this is how you would kind of attack it going forward. I think it's really helpful when we can hear each other's experiences to help us kind of pinpoint where maybe it happens in our lives too.
I love that. Everything you said was just like hit home, I'm sure, for so many people. I personally also was bullied a lot in high school. And so I was feeling everything you were feeling. And I'm so proud of where you have come, because it's very difficult to overcome that. I want to go around the room and introduce ourselves. Thank you for Sanam and Levon for joining us. We were talking about imposter syndrome, and Brianne gave awesome stories and how she kind of has worked through it and is working through it. So everything is going to be recorded if you guys want to go back. So if you guys need to leave early, I want you to introduce yourself first. So I know Sanam, you have to leave at 11:30. So let's start with you. Basically, just introduce yourself, your name, a business that you want to start, or your business that you're currently in. Put your social media handles in the chat. This is networking, so connect with whoever you feel you can benefit from or want to talk more to. And yeah, so go ahead and tell us a story like Brianne suggested about something that you have dealt with.
Hi, I'm Sanam. It's actually my second mastermind that I've been a part of, and I remember Tabitha, and it's been really nice because ever since then I see your name liking all my Instagram stuff. So this works. So I launched an Instagram page about a month ago. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist in Los Angeles, and my best friend and I started a relationship coaching program on Instagram, and it's been super fun. I think we were really craving just being outside of a private practice setting and being more interactive with people. I will say one of the hardest parts of it in terms of the imposter syndrome piece is feeling like there's engagement. Like we put ourselves out there every single day. We're posting 1 or 2 times a day. And we know that everybody can see the likes, if there are comments, if there are no comments, the views, and it makes me crazy. And it's one of the things that I've had to really work on calming myself down about, is that it just doesn't matter. I'm new, it's okay. And like, this is about me and my process and getting confident. It's not about anybody else telling me I'm good at it. And that's been like a big reframe for me. So making it about like, I know I deserve to take up this space, so I'm taking it up. Like that's been the lesson that I remind myself like every morning before I post something. So the handle for the Instagram is Who's Your Person. I'll put it in the chat when I'm done talking, but yeah, I'm just very excited. And the hope is to grow it into like more coaching offers and groups and hopefully a podcast. I really like to talk, so I think that would be a good platform for someone like me. But yeah, I'm excited to see what you all do and how we can support each other.
There are 4 podcast hosts in this group alone.
No way.
I was just gonna say, message me.
Talk to me, ladies.
Yep.
Okay, that's so
Jason,
exciting.
Becca, Gabrielle, Brianne. I mean,
No way.
yeah. So connect with each other.
Okay. I'm so excited about that. I think that's like the number one most exciting part of this is getting the podcast. So I'll definitely message you ladies. Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, you guys are all in different stages too. Like I know Becca's about to launch hers. So yeah, this is super cool. So I'm glad you brought the podcast up. Does anybody else need to leave a little early, or is everybody okay? Tabitha, go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry, I have to jump back over to, I'm in a course writing my program right now. So I'm bouncing between both. Let's see, I'm Tabitha Jensen. I have a relationship coaching business right now, niching in on women struggling in their marriage and painfully watching it fall apart. So I recently launched a Facebook group, Women Supporting Women in Marriage. And I'm really excited about that. Started to get some traction and people coming in. And I am in the midst of also wanting to do a podcast, but writing a group program. So marital foundations. And I'm super excited. I've been working on it for 2 years now and excited to get it launched. Imposter syndrome shows up for me all the time. It shows up to me when I like your posts on Instagram. And when really questioning, like, should I be here? Should I be doing this? I'm not a clinical therapist, things like that, all the time. And it's something that I have to sort of just, like you were saying, be looking at the inner child. I'm doing a lot of work with my EMDR work and therapy, and doing a lot of healing on my inner family portrait and my critical parent and my loving parent and all of that right now, trying to do exactly what you're talking about, and just like letting myself have permission to be here and to be in the spaces to be able to make the impact for the people that are needing it most. So I'll put my handle in the chat, and I really look forward to connecting with a lot of you actually outside of the group. I would love to jump on a Zoom and hear more about how I can support you and stay connected into the network.
Awesome. Before anybody leaves, I really want to take a photo. So really fast before I forget. Okay, smile. Yay. Okay, awesome. So does anybody else?
Just don't send it to Jason's wife.
I'm posting it on Instagram and tagging everybody.
Just go for it. I've gotten in trouble many times. It's okay.
This is networking. This is networking. Jason, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody about your app that you just launched.
And my wife's definitely going to believe it was networking. Absolutely. My name is Jason Hill. Just for starters, I run a podcast called The Shrimp Tank right here. We interview business owners that are located in South Florida. So if anyone happens to be located in South Florida, let me know, or visiting, because we just opened up a second studio where, you know, we're inviting people that are on our OWL app that are experts in certain sectors, which is pretty much everybody on this call, right? So if you do visit South Florida, let me know. And we do a shortened podcast as well. We do it with headsets, microphones on, and it's a fun experience. That led me to building a mobile application. It's called OWL. I put it the handle in the Instagram feed, and you could download it right on the App Store currently or the Google Play Store. It's designed where you get advice at a moment's notice. So if we've ever been on YouTube or Google and we get frustrated that we'd prefer to just speak to someone to get the answer from something, or really just connect with someone and have a one-on-one conversation, we're finding that a lot of people are choosing our platform over a platform like LinkedIn, where you're consistently messaging people and you can't get a hold of them and you prefer to just jump on a one-on-one audio chat. Right now, all calls are free, but we are monetizing. We're going to allow people put the price on their profile, what they want to charge. So if anyone on this call has an audience, for example, you could just tell your audience, if you want to chat with me, find me on OWL, and you can charge $10 for 10 minutes as an example. We're finding a lot of people are taking business off the platform then on a Zoom meeting or in person. So it's a great way to connect with people one-on-one, especially if someone's on Clubhouse right now. If you're a moderator in a room, you close out the room after giving everyone value and say, if you want to chat further one-on-one, jump on OWL and we could have a meeting one-on-one privately and secure without being recorded. So we're in the beta stage. We've been building it for about 13 months. So I'm looking for brand ambassadors as well. So that's why Imbal said, hey, you should join this group, you know, and be the only male on a call, of course. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm looking for brand ambassadors. We have about 70 currently, and we're gonna look to scale and really be a competitor against folks like Clubhouse, LinkedIn Audio, Amazon has an app coming out, Spotify has an app coming out. So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions and be of value to everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I just want to kind of give some examples of how you guys can utilize OWL. So for example, I met a woman named Laura through Clubhouse, and she introduced me to Jason. She is an incredible resource for anybody who's looking to scale their business. So there's been times where I'm like, oh my God, I have like somebody requested my pitch deck. Like, what do? I don't want to send them a pitch deck. And so we hop on a call on OWL, like she's online. Great. I can ask her a really quick question for like 5 minutes instead of Googling and spending 30 minutes trying to find something. Or if you're trying to do something on social media and you're having a problem with Instagram or you're new to it and you don't know what to do, you can hop on OWL, find an expert and be like, hey, like I really just need 5 minutes of your time. So it's a great resource. There's people there from, you know, pitching help, investing, you know, fitness, wellness, there's all across the board. So there's a resource for everybody. So like Jason said, they're growing, they're just starting. They just launched less than a month ago on the App Store. So that's super, super exciting. If you guys want to check it out, OWL, OWWLL. Okay, so now we're just going to go in order. My friend Adrienne, who's also a cheerleader was a cheerleader, by the way, Brianne. So you guys have that in common.
Yeah, I cheered in college, and I actually worked for UCA for 5 years, and then I coached for 7 years. So,
oh no way, where?
I was very involved. Well, I did UCA throughout the entire Midwest, so I spent 5 summers traveling through like 5 different states, and then I coached at 2 different high schools in Illinois when I lived there. So
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. I loved it too. I miss it. I keep trying to coach where I am here now, but they need you to teach and as well, and I'm not going back to that. So but hi everybody, I'm Adrienne. I actually met Inbal, both of our well, her husband, my now fiance, we're both in the Marine Corps together, so that's how we met. And I live in North Carolina, which is where Inbal was prior to being back in California. But I am an online personal trainer. And as I was mentioning, I actually have a degree in education, but I left that to become a personal trainer because, well, there's a few different things. While I was teaching, I was extremely unhealthy, like very unhealthy, living on caffeine, Subway, McDonald's. I really thought that was what was healthy though. I was very uneducated in that. And then I started doing fitness competitions, and I absolutely fell in love with not only the discipline that it takes to be healthy and in shape like that, but I started inspiring other people, and I was doing this while I was teaching, and my students would come to school with water bottle, like their gallon jugs of water, because I had to drink it. So that's like kind of where I started realizing, I'm like, wait, I could still be impactful in other people's lives. It doesn't have to be in this box of a classroom. So I decided to leave teaching, and I started training, and I've been doing that now since 2014. So quite a while I've been in the fitness industry. Anyway, so I do all my business online. All my clients are online, and I'm actually mostly on TikTok. I know if you aren't on TikTok, I promise I've grown faster on TikTok than I have on Instagram. Like years I've been on Instagram. TikTok, I just hit over, I mean, it's not like a huge following, but I just hit over 5,000 followers, and I've only been taking TikTok seriously for a few months. So, like it's huge. Get on TikTok. I'm not a social media coach by any means, but go to TikTok. I promise. That's where everything's at. And my business has actually grown a lot since being on TikTok, to the point where now I'm trying to work on having my own app. So I'm really excited about that. I've been working on it for a while, but I kind of stalled recently because I just recently got engaged. So now all my focus is planning a wedding. So I'm sure most of you could understand that. But anyways, so essentially what I teach is I provide gym quality workouts that you can do at home. So that's what my focus is, because that's, I think, what everyone wants to have is, but they have that intimidation of the gym, or they don't want to be in a gym, especially with everything going on right now. So yeah, anyways, oh yeah, Brianne, I would love to connect with you. We have a lot in common currently. So yeah, I'll put my TikTok and my Instagram both in the chat. I post mostly my dog on Instagram, but he's cute though, I promise. So I'm like more active on TikTok though. So, but I'll put both in the chat. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Adrienne. I'm so happy you're here. I've been trying to get her to join this app for a while, so congratulations. Okay, Becca, let's go to you.
Hello, ladies and gent, if you're still here. Hi, Jason. Speaking of pets, my dog is laying right here next to me, being super, super quiet, being snuggly. But oh my gosh, where to start? So first of all, Brianne, thank you for your presentation. It was absolutely incredible. Chills, all the good things. Imbal mentioned you to me, so I've been stalking you on the social medias, mainly Instagram, and would love to take a conversation offline. But I am Becca Photo. I am the proud owner and founder of Lady Be Co., which we are a modern marketing company that really specializes and helps in supporting women grow their businesses through social media, email marketing, and web, blog and web. And I'm literally preparing myself as we speak. It's been a podcast day. So my podcast gets recorded. We're launching it May 5th, 5522. If you're a numbers person, there's purpose and reason behind that. But we've been batch recording every week now for the past few weeks to get ready for the launch. And so the recording this morning at 9, was interviewed on myself, which this is my imposter story. I got asked by this group on LinkedIn, The Power of Social Media, just a few months ago, about coming on and talking to them about women in business and this kind of a startup conversation. And I literally was like, what do I have to share? Like, why little me, like all the things. I'm a recovering perfectionist as well. So part of it's like just preparing to speak and just share from the heart and not have to have it all scripted out. So I'm never here today. So it's been a Zoom kind of day for me. But I'm launching on the doors open on April 20th for my course. I'm officially calling it Marketing Genius, because I do believe that, women, and again, primarily women who are just going into their business, or they've been going, but they've been kind of haphazardly doing marketing because there's all the things to do. So marketing kind of just gets done as an afterthought, or maybe you're doing something on your blog over here, but social is talking about this, and maybe send an email out about that, and nothing is really cohesive and really kind of this overall messaging that really goes and flows together. So I've developed a system that I've been using for myself and clients for years, and finally really packaged it up to make it very succinct and very, again, systemized, that we're launching here on the 20th. So really heads down in that. And then I also have a membership group, The Hive, which is kind of for the woman who is just getting started. She's just getting started with her her business. So content just seems to kind of be maybe a struggle or challenge to come up with. So I have a social action plan that releases on the first of every month, and within that group, plus a monthly mastermind and a bunch of developed assets that can come or that come with that group as well. So that is $27 a month. It's super, super easy to just, you get in. If you are in it and you love it, great, stay. If you don't, you can opt out. There's no contract or anything. There's nothing like no obligation, if you will, to stay in that group. So that's a little bit about what I do. And I just want to add, I was also a cheerleader, voted most school spirit my senior year of high school. So just want to, there's connections. We all just need to stay connected to each other. But I also want to say too, that I think for me personally, COVID has been a season of shifting and changing. I will make a long story short, but when I opened my business back in 2014, I was a full service kind of marketing firm. We had hired a team, we had a location, and we had offices, we had all of it. And then about the end of 2019, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I really wasn't fulfilled. I got content, kind of on autopilot. We had great clients, but it just wasn't fulfilling work. So I literally let my entire team go. I got with my mentor. We masterminded, masterminded. Lady B was just kind of like a thought in my head, and we made it real in like 2 months. We had a big launch party. We launched on March 8th of 2020, International Women's Day. We had a ton of local press and momentum. We all know what happened next. So I literally shut it down for a year plus, actually, and just again relaunched it back in September of 2021. So I'm kind of like, open a business, closed a business, opened a business, closed it, and now we're back in action. And the podcast came about through some lives that I was doing on social media around mind, body, business. So if anybody wants to be on the podcast, just reach out to me. I'll put my information in the chat, because I'm looking for guests to come on. And again, we talk about mindset. What Brianne was talking about today, that's the kind of content we talk about. This morning, we talked about therapy. We talked, honey, you got to listen to this episode. It is all about my friend who literally hit a rock bottom in the March of 2021, and her journey and her climb out of it is what we're talking about, while keeping her business afloat. Was going to sell it, then got an investor opportunity. Now she's going to keep it. What's her next season and chapter? Like, it is all the things that Brianne was talking about today. So if you have a story like that, or even if it doesn't have to be the exact, we talk about health and wellness. I'm a marathon runner, or half marathon runner. Let's not get too crazy here. So all of these different elements and things about business and body and health and mindset, like, it's all what the podcast like embodies. So if you want to come on and get over your imposter syndrome and join me, you are welcome to. Okay, I'm gonna take. I'm like going fast. Thanks.
Thank you. You have so much going on. I love it. Gabrielle, your turn next.
Hello, everyone. Impa, thank you so much for inviting me to this. This was really exciting. So I'm Gabrielle. I am a niche expert, and I'm actually going to be doing the presentation in October on how to find your niche and stuff in this group. So I'm super excited for that. So I'm a niche expert, and then I'm also a sales coach. So I help women find their niches and then sell in a way that feels good to them. And Brianne, your presentation, like the whole time, I was like, yes, 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 yes. Because so much of what I help my people with in finding their niche, like the way that I do it, it's through their story and through an experience that they've been through, and basically making a past version of themselves their dream customer. The amount of healing and the amount of imposter syndrome that comes through, it's just, so I was really resonating with everything you were saying. from myself, and then also from hearing it through clients and stuff. And it's, you know, when you ask the question, like, tell me a story of when you felt imposter syndrome. In my brain, I'm like, I'm trying to think of a time I haven't felt imposter syndrome through my 2 years in business. And, you know, I had quite a rough start. I share this story all the time where I didn't make a single dollar in 6 months. And when I first started, I was just laid off from my tech sales job in Manhattan and like all this craziness. And so much of it was because I wasn't owning what I brought to the table. Like I wasn't owning my uniqueness and my unique skill set. And I wasn't marketing that, right? I was looking at what everyone else was doing, you know, what's Brianne doing, what's Adrienne doing, what's Tabitha doing, and oh, that looks like it works for her. Let me try. And, you know, it wasn't until I was able to really shake that and like step into what I bring to the table that things shifted for me. And so that's a lot of what I do in my business now. So we should definitely connect, because I feel like doing an IG live or something would be great. And that is open for anyone here. I also have a podcast. It's called The Gabrielle Lara Show. And it's all around normalizing the messy middle in entrepreneurship, because so often, you know, everyone makes it look like snap of the fingers and here's $1 million. Wrong. So I bring entrepreneurs from all walks of life who come on and just share their story of the messy, or like the shit that they've had to navigate, for lack of a better phrase, right? Like, you know, I just had some woman on who was homeless and in so much debt, and then she pulled herself out of it. And 11 years later, like it's thriving. And so it's stories like that. So if anyone feels like they're just at a rut in their business, hop on, because been there, done that. And we just share stories for days. So I'm excited to connect with you guys. Like Owl app sounds awesome. Everything that you guys were sharing, it just sounds like a really cool room to be in. So thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Thank you so much. Yeah. Normalizing the messy middle. I've already told you this, but that just like, there's so much.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. Okay, LaVon, tell everybody about yourself. By the way, she's been an incredible resource for my business. And if anybody's not familiar with the SBA, take it away.
Okay, great. So my name is LaVon Shields, and starting with the SBA side of it, we actually met as I do counseling for the Women's Business Center here in Southern California, Inland Empire. So if you do not know about the Small Business Development Centers or the Women's Business Centers, amazing resources. I've been a counselor and trainer there for several years. And so we have counseling, training, workshops, all that great stuff. So that's amazing resource there. That's what I do in addition to my business, which I am a accounting strategist and a business accountability coach. So what I do is I work with business owners to teach them how to transition from being technicians who know how to generate income to CEOs who are running the business of the business that they do. So you know how to do that voodoo that you do. How do you actually communicate that from the business communication level? You know, accounting is the language of business. And so I break that down and teach business owners how to use it, and then how to use it as a strategy to build, lead, and grow their businesses. I've been doing a version of this for almost 23 years, and I finally figured out that it's not just the bookkeeping aspect of it that I had been doing, that I had been coaching this entire time. At probably about 2018, when I went through training to get certified as an NLP specialist, a certified practitioner. So what I do is, as I help business, I identify where the blockages are for business owners as far as how they see money and connect it to how they run their business, bust through that like gangbusters, and then start to take things to a whole new level. I don't know how many people get to have as much fun with their clients as I do, and I love the work that I get to do with them and helping them with that. So it's a matter of me like working with business owners. That's what my passion is. I really do feel like it's my purpose to do that. I am just now getting engaged in a social media type environment. My business has always been word of mouth. I think that's actually how we met, right? It was a referral. Someone said, "I need to talk to you." I was like, "Okay, great." So we connected, and then I got a chance to be here. It sucks that I missed your presentation, Brianne. I had a client coaching call that was scheduled before that, but what's so funny is I spent my entire elementary and junior high in twirling flags, drill team, cheerleading. And then when I went to high school, I went to the high school for the arts and sciences, and they didn't have a cheerleading squad. And so I created a cheerleading squad for the years that I was there. So I don't even know how we ended up all together, but I guess that's just what we're supposed to do, and where we're supposed to be. So thank you for allowing me to be here, to be a part of this group. I'm looking forward to it. I love masterminds. I love being around other like-minded business owners and supporting. I don't have a podcast. Like I said, I'm working my way into developing my online social media presence. So I look forward to hearing some of the stories, understanding some of the resources, finding out more things that you guys are doing and being able to implement that. And looking forward to really learning more about all of you all and getting to know your businesses as well.
Yay. Thank you so, so much. Sally, go ahead. You're next.
Okay, awesome. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Sally. I'm calling in from Denver, Colorado, and I'm working on a platform that helps brands genuinely connect with their customer base. So we do everything, we host everything in the metaverse. So it's kind of an exciting new space, but we do tutorials, we do a lot of things that engage your customer base, but also showcase product and also allow you to shop virtually. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm definitely in the beginning stages, working on getting clients and brands on board to test with me. So imposter syndrome, definitely have dealt with this a lot. So Brianne, thank you so much for your talk. But I think the biggest way that it's showed up for me recently is because I'm trying to get out there and sort of get some brands to test with. I've been reaching out to a lot of people through LinkedIn and different people that I've worked with in the past or second degree connections. And I find that I deal with imposter syndrome a lot there. I just think to myself, oh, I've been doing this for over a year now. I'm still kind of in the beginning stages. What are people going to think when they look at my LinkedIn? That sort of thing comes to mind. So that's kind of where it shows up for me. And then I think I am not a cheerleader technically, but I am very good at cheering people on. So I definitely want to support everybody and excited to just connect.
Awesome. Sally worked at Snapchat. How cool is that? Okay, Sephora, go ahead. Your turn.
Hi, everyone. So the reason why my video is not on is because my daughter is here. She will pop up in the video. So that's why. Otherwise, it would have been on. Nice to meet you all. I own Seth Crafts, which is a planner and journal business. So I design my own planners and I also design my own journals. My planners focus on the big three, like the 3 things that you have to accomplish per day. And it discourages laundry list of tasks on a daily basis. And my journal focuses on gratitude, affirmation, and motivation. So there are some points in the journal where I ask you several questions because I know at times people tend to vent in a journal. So they're purposely placed throughout the journals to interrupt you. So that way you're not just being upset or for whatever reason, just writing. It gets to interrupt you to think about, oh, what am I grateful for? Things I want to try and what motivates me. For me, where imposter syndrome comes up is social media. I struggle with posting and like on a consistent basis because I have not really seen the fruit of that labor. And I know that it's something that I have to do like more than once a week, right? To see the fruit of the labor. But because it's just not a strong area for me, I definitely struggle in showing up in that part of my business. And so as far as anything else, like I also struggle with the finances. I know Levon, right, spoke about the accounting piece. So I just shift that off to my husband, who's really great at that. But I understand as a CEO, I do have to know the finance piece of my business. So I tend to put my head down in the creative part because I know I'm really good at that. And everything else is like, yeah, I could always hire someone to do that, but that shouldn't be the case. I also like imposter syndrome also shows up when I vendor at markets. If let's say, for example, if I don't make a sale within the first hour, like my mind just starts saying, well, what's wrong with my product? What's wrong with my product? And then like I have to, in a way, redirect that energy to say, wait, first of all, there's nothing wrong with your product. Your audience is not here yet. And usually when that happens, it's a busy day for me because of that mindset shift. And then I start speaking positivity over the day, over the event, as opposed to sulking in that negative energy. So Brianne, thank you so much for putting it in plain terms, because I know what I was feeling, but I couldn't really put a word to it. So yes. Oh, and I am calling in from North Carolina, where Inbal used to live, not too far. I'm also a military wife.
Awesome. Yeah, Sephora is actually going to be teaching one of the classes, one of the masterminds on planning and organizing. And Brianne, do you want to talk about it or do you want me to talk about it? Go ahead.
I don't know what you're talking about. My
The
notebook?
planner.
Oh, yeah. I just launched today a pre-launch of my new notebook that I created. It's more of like, it is a true notebook, but the first 10 pages are business building. So like there's goal setting and brand building and like audience tracking. So the first 10 pages are kind of like prompts, and then there's 130 pages of just lined paper for note taking. Because for me, I love technology and I like to have everything organized through technology for like reminders and stuff. But I'm also if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen. And I need to like write it down to make myself remember it. Even through this meeting, like I'm taking notes because I like to be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, Gabrielle has a podcast and she's a niche expert. So I write that stuff down. So I really like notebooks. Yeah, so I have a pre-sale on my website, consultingbyb.com/shop. Thanks for letting me plug that in, Ball.
Of course. Well, I thought it was fitting since we were talking about planners and organizers, but Levon asked if there's a digital version of your notebook.
Not right now. This is kind of like, it was like more of a passion project and less of a building out a whole suite of products per se right now. But hey, if there's need for a digital version, then maybe that's something I could create.
Jason, I also have a question for you because Brianne's in Canada. So I know you guys are working on getting the app. I know Canadian users can use it, but can you talk about that really fast?
Yeah, we had to make a last minute decision to not allow most people internationally in after the beta when we entered the App Store do the liability with financials. So we partner with Stripe. So there's just concern with withdrawals and money laundering internationally. So we want to start things off in the United States first. People from Canada can apply to become an expert, but right now you cannot withdraw money. So you could earn money from the calls and then spend it on other experts to chat with them. And at some point we'll figure out how to open up Stripe, and that way people can make withdrawals. But right now everyone's just doing $1 per call anyway. So there's not much going on anyway other than networking. So if you're from Canada, go ahead and join. You can't be a brand ambassador yet because again, same problem. I don't want people focusing on getting extra earnings as a brand ambassador and then not being able to withdraw, you know, if it's 4 months or 6 months until we allow that for Canada. Cool.
Cool. Thank you. I know somebody else.
I guess I'll forgive you. It's okay.
So we have about like 15 minutes left. So what I like to do now, and just a reminder, put your socials and your website and all that good stuff in the chat so that anybody can connect with you. Yeah, Tabitha went. Brianne asked, I was like, where did Tabitha go? Yeah, Tabitha shared. So if anybody needs any help with something, I want to throw this question out. Do you guys need any help brainstorming? Do you have like a homepage that you're redoing that you need advice on? Or do you have like value propositions you're working on? If we can help brainstorm, I want to throw that out there first. Go ahead and unmute if you do. If not, I'll just ask a random question. Okay, so because we're all like, we're full of podcasters here, I want to have everybody throw out their favorite podcast. So it can be a personal podcast, it can be like a 10-minute podcast, it can be a business podcast. So we'll just go in order again. And if it's not a podcast, give me a book. I already wrote down the one you said, Brianne. But Adrienne, go first. Give us a podcast recommendation.
Well, I'm big fans of Chris and Lori Harder. I'm actually personal friends with them. So though I love their podcasts. And then there's this other person, she's actually in California. I don't know if you might have heard of it, but it's Project Me with Tiffany. I love all of those for personal development, mindset. Tiffany talks a lot about manifesting as well. So I like all of those, and they're all but all of them are multimillionaires, so they know how to build businesses. So those are my favorite.
I actually just posted about Chris Harder's episode about journaling. I sent out an email about that, I think on Monday or yesterday. So yeah, awesome podcast. And he does like really short ones too. So it's really nice to just.
Yeah, his are nice because he does them all the way down to like 8 minutes. So even if you only have like a few minutes or whatever, he breaks them down, but he has longer ones too. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good one. Brianne, go ahead.
Well, I have my own podcast, so Becoming Entrepreneurs. It's a great one. If I do say so myself. It's all about the entrepreneurial journey, and I started it pre-pandemic, and then I took a break during the pandemic because, like I said, I was like not in a great place personally. And then now I've brought it back, and I am really enjoying it. So also always looking for guests. So message me. But I also really love the Jenna Kutcher podcast. I feel like that's a staple in everybody's podcast following situation. And then I also like this other girl. Her name is Keisha Fitzgerald. She has a podcast called Empower Her. And she is just like the most energetic, really, she's like your hype girl best friend kind of thing. So whenever I feel like I need somebody to light a fire under my ass and make me feel good, I put on one of her podcasts because she's super energetic and really lights the fire.
Awesome. I love that. Becca, also, by the way, I am a numbers person. So 5522 is awesome. I officially launched Like Minded on 2222 with a backup of 2222. So awesome. Go ahead. You're muted.
Sorry, I did hit it, but I hit the little arrow by it, so I apologize. Same, Brianne, Jenna Kutcher podcast. I feel like she just has such a width of like content type for her, like what she talks about. So I will tend to just find whatever I need in that moment and plug her in. But episode 544 also has a very significant meaning behind it. If you cannot tell, in the last, I would say 6 months, I've had a numbers play. I mean, it's like all just eerily coming into place, and it's like you can even put those things into words. So I feel like you've been in that like spiritual awakening, if you will. That's what's happening. But I also love how I built this podcast because it talks, I mean, granted, it's like MailChimp and these bigger, Bumble, these bigger tech and other businesses. But I love to hear how people who've made it massive and big, like I want to, started out just like I am. And they're just like me, kind of like makes them more human, if you will. But I also love to read. I was at 2 books a month. I'm now at a book a week. I just ordered 2 more books yesterday because my next book's actually kind of big, so it might take me like 10 days. But I literally map out what my goal is to get the book done as far as X amount of chapters to read every day. And I read first thing when I get up every morning for 30 minutes to an hour. So I just finished the book Essentialism yesterday. If you're not familiar with it, it's way over there. But basically it's just about simplifying life. So I think like just My goal is just to start making things so stupid simple that there's like not even brain power to be used on those simple tasks. So it can be used towards a bigger, serving my audience, serving towards a bigger purpose. So podcasts are about that. I'm all for it too, if you know of any.
Yeah, how I built
Marie-
this, huh?
Oh, sorry. I was going to add Marie Forleo's podcast too. I really like her voice. I'm really like, I can't do Audible because sometimes the voice of the author is just a little much for me. I lose kind of sight of the content. But Marie Forleo as another one that I plug in because I really like her voice. Sorry. Go ahead, Imbal.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, how I built this is amazing. It like really motivated me for when I was building my candle company. Like Sarah Blakely, I think is their first episode. And she basically talks about how she took the buyer from Neiman Marcus, took her to the bathroom and put on Spanx on her. Like that's how she was like, she had the Spanx in her red backpack. She talks about the red backpack and she like put the Spanx on the buyer at Neiman Marcus. It was so funny in the bathroom.
Or how she would have her brother or someone or even herself go buy them.
Yeah.
So they would have to like restock them.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think she put them there before they officially like bought them.
Correct. Or she moved them from like where the clothes were to like by the checkout. So you had like, you're like, oh, with the whole like psychology and like last minute decision to buy. Anyway, no, her story is incredible, but yeah.
Yeah. She's one of the, it's like, it just boils down to like asking for forgiveness instead of permission, right? You just do whatever you got to do to get people to know about your brand. So yeah, I love her. So How I Built This is an incredible podcast.
Love it.
Gabrielle.
And they're long, so I'll like plug them in and go on a run and just like take it all in. I feel like I'm like multitasking the best way you possibly can for your body. So,
and the way that he puts the episodes together, it's not like questions. He almost just like talks about the whole story because he already knows everything about the guest. So he's like, oh yeah, like you so-and-so, so-and-so. And they're like, oh yeah. And then they kind of talk about the story. So there's not really like a question format. It's much more of like a story, which I really like too.
Yeah, I agree. So agree.
Okay, Gabrielle, go ahead.
Okay, I totally hear you on that spiritual awakening situation. I went through a huge one last year where my life literally crumbled and then came back. So I hear that. And then the numbers, like just like walking everywhere and seeing synchronicities every 8 seconds and trying to figure out what it means. But because I am a spiritual person, I love Gabby Bernstein and her books. Her books are incredible. I'm sure you've read those. And then her podcast as well. It helps me make sense of like what's happening in my life when craziness happens. And then also On Purpose by Jay Shetty. I love his perspective. He has a great voice. It's like very soothing, but he has an awesome perspective, and it's interesting. It's nice to hear a perspective from a male as well. I feel like I listen to a lot of female podcasters like Gold Digger. I probably listen to like every episode of that and all that. So I really like the Jay Shetty one as well. And then Lewis Howes, I hope that is his name. Lewis Howes. Yeah, he's wonderful as well.
Yeah, he is awesome. On Purpose, is that a book or a podcast?
That's a podcast.
Okay, I haven't heard of that yet. Okay, I'll look into that.
It's wonderful. I totally recommend.
Awesome. Jason.
So you're going to laugh. I run a podcast, but I actually don't listen to many podcasts anymore. Last 2 years, I probably have listened to under 5 shows. I used to listen to a lot of different just people in general that I was interested in and whatever shows they might be on. But these days, I just find that I do better just jumping into a clubhouse room, finding a topic I'm interested in, getting involved in the conversation. Or of course, through OWL, I'm having a lot of one-on-one conversations. And what I find a lot of value is running the actual podcast, The Shrimp Tank, where I get to interview the guests and ask all the questions, because there's so much information that these guests tell us on the air, and you could pick their brain, how they built it. So of course, that podcast that you were just bringing up, how people actually, grow their company, scale it, is so valuable, which is why I probably built OWL at the end of the day, just learning from hundreds of different entrepreneurs, what they've done, and none of us are any different, right? They all just went for it and just kept, at it day in and day out, which is why I built OWL. I just always enjoyed chatting with people one-on-one And I just realized there was not a technology that existed, because after listening to podcasts, I'd always get interested to actually speak to the guests that they had on, but I could never get through to them on their inboxes. They'd always like, who's this person messaging me? So I just said, let's create an app that actually can do that. So, but yeah, there's not actually a podcaster that, you know, I listen to every single month, because I rather be the person on the other end asking that guest the questions.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? I've reached out to podcasters too. Like, I listened to an episode and I'm like, wow, I feel like this like really changed my perspective. So I want to tell them and I message them. And like, I think I asked a question. The guy was just like, oh, thank you. Like, that's it. And I'm like, did you not just read this like heartfelt message that I sent you? So yeah, it was very strange, but yeah, that happened. So yeah, I agree with you. Clubhouse is so much better. Owl, like where you're able to talk to people and like have follow-up. But yeah, I'm still a podcaster in the car type of person.
Yep.
Sally. Oh wait, Lavon, sorry, the order switched because somebody left. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought you were talking about the question I had in the chat. So yeah, don't get a chance to listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm more auditory digital than I am auditory. So when I listen to things, it makes me want to actually process everything. So I can't really do it background. So music is my background thing. But as far as books, You Are a Badass was probably one of the recent ones, and that was when I actually listened to her. I loved the way that she spoke, and I was introduced to her by a friend of mine, and so I loved that one. So I liked that audiobook. But as far as just in general books, my first one that really got me into business on it was Think and Grow Rich, and then E-Myth. E-Myth. That's kind of what I based my entire principle off of, which is his quote, by most businesses are started by technicians who are having an entrepreneurial seizure, as opposed to that one. So I kind of based my entire process of how I work with my clients on that main quote right there. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you. You know, I haven't read Think and Grow Rich, and I need to, because it's obviously everywhere. So I need to definitely read that one. Sally. Oh, nice.
I just gotta plug really quick. This is my next book. I had to post it that was like start Monday, but I had to finish my other book. I had finished it yesterday, and then I had track meets for all the kids, and so I didn't get to it last night. But this is my next one. Is it Damien John or whatever, the guy, the FUBU guy from Shark Tank? It's like I've read this book 20 times, and I'm like, well, then I better read it 20 times too. So I'm so glad you brought it up. I hear it all the time. So pick it up.
It's gonna be my next one too.
Maybe it'll be my next one too. Yeah, so my favorite podcasts are The Next Big Idea. That one's really good because it makes me just think like on a more macro scale and just lots of topics that I otherwise probably wouldn't look into. And then the other one that I like is, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. Which one is the other one I listen to? Oh, Masters of Scale. That one's really good too, especially if you like How I Built This. That's a really good one. It's from the LinkedIn founder. So it's great. And then the book that I'm reading that I'm really liking right now is called See, Solve, Scale. It's a new book by a professor at Brown University that teaches all these entrepreneurial courses.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of that one either. So added that to my list. Okay, Sephora.
Yes. So my favorite podcasts, I listen to different types of podcasts, but my favorite podcast right now for motivation is Secrets to Success. That's with E.T., the hip hop preacher. I don't know if anyone of you heard of him, but it really takes me out of those moments where I'm like, you know what, I don't know if I could do this anymore type moments as a CEO. I'm sure many of you have. And so it's a really good podcast. As far as books, I just finished Grit. I don't know if anyone has read that before, but I am going to look into the Badass book because I've seen it pop up on my Amazon. So that may be my next book. So Secrets to Success would be my podcast recommendation.
Awesome. I do want to tell you guys that I just read an awesome book. It's called Building a Story Brand. It just really makes you think about your target market, your messaging, like the way that you go about building your messaging. So highly, highly recommend that. It's by Donald Miller. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Honestly, these masterminds is what like gets me through imposter syndrome and, just looking at the incredible group of women and men that I get to have on these and the people that I network with on a daily basis. So I appreciate you all so much. I literally tell my husband at least once a week, I'm like, what am I doing? How am I even building this platform? Like, I don't even know if I should be doing it. Like, I just need to shut it down. It's crazy. And then I get on a call with somebody and they're like, wow, this is like what I've been looking for. So it's like a constant up and down battle. I talk about this all the time. There's high highs and low lows to business. So you just need to surround yourself with friends that will get you through that. And I'm very lucky to have friends that will do that with me. So thank you guys so much again. I hope you network with each other. There's so many connections in this room, which is literally what makes me the most happy ever. So thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Our next mastermind is the 19th of April. So have a great rest of your day and crush it. Bye.